Hello and welcome to the Daily Conversation for the Trades. I am your host, Christene Marie. I'm really excited to dive into our conversation today. We are talking about 3 questions that every contractor should ask about their business in order to experience growth. And, I know that there's plenty more. And so, how did I come upon these numbers? I really looked at it from the perspective of being a partner in our family business. My brother and I joined in 2021 as partners, and he and I have had varying levels of involvement since then to more or less degrees. And we've really come alongside my dad in so many ways and supported him in how my dad has been leading the business, third generation, and coming in as fourth generation ourselves. So, what are the questions that we've asked to move the needle from that perspective? Also, the perspective of chief marketing officer for a number of businesses. What are the questions I have asked that had some of the biggest impact for their business? And then also, coming from the customer perspective too. And the reason why this is important actually speaks to question number 3. So we're going to go ahead and look at these questions from every single lens today, because if we really want to grow, we need to don many hats. We need to put on different perspectives and look at our business, kind of look at it objectively and turn it around. It's a 3D dimensional, alive, breathing entity. It's not 2-dimensional. And so the more we're looking in linear black and white, the less we're going to be able to see the nuance and the color necessary for us to then be able to experience growth and compound from there. So much of growth, if we're doing it right, compounds on itself and grows naturally once we've built the firm foundation. Hence the name for Foundation First that my partner and I co-founded. We come in with that fractional lens to see what's missing before we ever start spending any money, any of the marketing budget, any of the budget maybe set aside even for hiring. What is the foundation on which we're growing for your business to ensure that growth compounds? Just like any investment you would make in the market, you want to be thinking that way for your business. Which type of investment is necessary for compounding effect? And what's also just a one-time kind of, okay, we have to spend money on this building, or we have to spend money on a kind of a one-time expenditure, and that will itself yield return, but it's not necessarily going to compound growth. So those are the perspectives that we're taking today: is the consumer perspective, the owner perspective, and then also the fractional perspective. So I want to start with question number 1. And there's I guess you could say, kind of a philosophy. A dear friend of mine calls it first principles. And one of the, I guess you could say, first principles that I hold as it pertains to working with businesses is that I always look back first. I always look to the past, whether I'm working with an individual entrepreneur, business owner, and we're looking at their life and how to actually compound interest on their life and all of the investment they've made and how do we yield maximum return, but also their business. So looking back, the number one question in looking back that I would have is to analyze what is the highest net earning activity that got me here today. I realized I was meeting with a company. They grew from 11 million to 30 million in 1 year. And so I'm coming on as a fractional CMO to work with them. And effectively, how do we get to that next level of 60 million? And one of the biggest questions was this, sitting down with them. And we're going to be digging into data moving forward and pulling a lot of reports and talking to vendors, talking about what's working, what hasn't worked. What have you tried? Where did it fail? Where did it go well? But I want to know, what is the number one thing you have done that had the biggest impact on the bottom line? And remember, bottom line is net. Yesterday, we were talking about different numbers that business owners and operators need to be looking at. A lot of times they're just looking at lead numbers and they're just looking at gross revenue. We need to be looking bottom line is net. So I want to know what activity. It could be a service. It could be a marketing tactic. It could be something sales does. It could be something production does. It could be at the very end of the life cycle where you're like, man, someone told me this example while I was on a podcast with them. They said that they would customize doormats with the homeowner's name and give it to them. And that was a really actually high net earning opportunity, because that person ended up bringing in 4 to 5 customers that they would refer them out to. That was a very high net earning activity. Now, here's the thing. Another company that I've talked to They grew to, I believe it was 20 million just by knocking on doors. And then they stopped. And then they incrementally grew by far lesser of a degree. But the thing that they stopped doing was they just started paying for Google ads rather than going and knocking on doors. So while, yes, they were still growing, they were looking at, man, they're like, man, look at all of the leads we're bringing in because people are calling, people are filling out forms. Man, this is awesome. But they stopped knocking on doors that got them to the fast growth track that they were on before. And I like to think of this as the golden goose. What is a golden goose? Man, that the either, and it could high net earning activity could be a person who's, man, just dynamite. They go in, they secure the contracts, they secure the relationships, they're building the bridge, and then we've got these high earning potentials coming as a result of it. And so the reason why I want to look at this is because as we're talking about growth, so often what we only do is we look forward. We never look back, and we don't really analyze where are we here today. I worked with a coach, Dr. Jeff Spencer. He worked with Lance Armstrong and coached many other professional athletes. And, I was sitting with him for a couple of hours in our first meeting. And the very first thing he had me do was what he called a goal positioning survey. He says, we need to know where we're starting from in order to then highlight, like, okay, now am I making any success because I know where I'm starting from? But if we don't know our starting point, how can we ever have any kind of incremental measurable success moving forward because we don't have a baseline? Y'all, we need to understand what is our baseline, and to even understand that we have to look at the past. So the past shows me what's a high net worth opportunity activity that was being done in the past that got you to where you are today. What's the golden goose? What made you into a good company so that as we move forward to making you a great company, we do not stop the thing. Jim Collins talks about that in his book, From Good to Great. We cannot stop doing the very thing that got us to where we are today. Second question. So as we've been looking at the past, I want to look at the present. Again, akin to this concept of, okay, what got us here, but also where are we? What defines here? What's our baseline? Where are we starting from today? And this is, the question I would ask you is, where is there waste? Analyze every facet of your business. Where is there waste? Wasted time, wasted revenue, wasted revenue. For me, that question of where is there waste? Where are we wasting opportunities because maybe we sold the job and then they end up getting canceled down the line because we didn't follow up with them? For one particular company, they had 11% of all total year jobs get canceled because of lack of follow through. 11%. That is waste. I'm sure you as a business owner and operator knows just what a big deal that is. That is actually returning. That's money lost. It's not just money that it's like, oh, we could have secured that, but it's like, no, you actually need to return the money to the homeowner because they've already paid you. That is an actual loss. That is actual waste. It's not just, an idea in my head of loss of vision, but it's loss of actual dollars and cents. So where is there waste? Where are we wasting opportunity for lead capture? Where are we wasting opportunities for appointments? Are we not getting in touch with them fast enough? Are we not having the date soon enough? We need to grow in proportion to our capacity and capability, lest we offer a terrible customer experience and then the word spreads and it hurts our brand reputation. Brand reputation is one of the most important assets you could ever have, both for your business and your personal life. Your reputation is the number one most important asset. So if you're trying to grow beyond your capacity, it's going to be detrimental to the health and growth of the business. So where is there waste? Let's eliminate the waste, because that, again, it goes back to shoring up the foundation so that as we try to implement new tactics, new endeavors, new activations, it's being built on something that is strong and sturdy. And then next, and the third question is coming at it from the customer perspective. Step outside of your own customer journey. So, okay, the lead comes in all the way through. Okay, we're done the job. Hopefully they turn into an evangelist for us. Go and actually completely do a 180 and go sit in your customer's shoes. This is where empathy is incredibly important. This is where you're forward thinking. What is the bookend of their experience before calling, hiring you, and then after? And I want you to really think about this. What are the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 steps they go through for their house, for the stage of their business growth if you're B2B? And then also, what are the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 steps after working with you? Because you know what? On either bookend is probably an opportunity for you to expand your services and or deepen them. Maybe it's through a maintenance program. Maybe it's through the addition of a service while they're in the life cycle. But what I want you to think through is, where is there opportunity on either bookend, and to stay more consistently in front of them through an ongoing relationship rather than just a one-time service. If you install pools, have a pool cleaning business. It's those very natural, like, oh, well, obviously I should be kind of taking that approach. And as you're asking this question, empathy is incredibly helpful for you to sit in the customer's shoes and look at the lifespan of, what are the things that they're doing. If you have a landscaping business, again, there's a lot of kind of natural things that come before. For example, one of our clients at one point was a foundation repair business. They go in, tear up the yard. So it's very natural to then have landscaping come after. So if this company was smart, they would actually go and acquire a landscaping business and or partner with a landscaping business, where maybe it's just referral partnership and or it's an actual acquisition, equity ownership, something like that. Because for every single home yard that's destroyed, we will come in and make it beautiful. And it's just a natural next step in the progression of the customer's life cycle. And after the one-time landscaping, it's, hey, do you not want this to be wasted money? Let us help you maintain it. Keeping up with it and making sure. And by the way, we'll also check your foundation for cracks and ensure that there's preventative action, rather than ever, catching it too late and then having to redo this again. Or maybe there's honestly, one of the worst things that can happen with foundations is that it's a terrible, terrible freeze. And then the weather changes so drastically. And we've been seeing that everywhere. Maryland this year actually had the highest influx ever in terms, I think ever since, at least I think it was the 40s is the highest record since this year in Maryland. It was 86 in the morning, 30 and snowing in the evening. Literally same day. So that's not good for a home's foundation. And all of that can turn into a marketing message. All of that can turn into a potential service. So paying attention to the bookend of your customer's experience before and after working with your business. Where's their opportunity? Where's their opportunity to set up referral partnerships with other businesses that are delivering those services, and or acquisition or equity ownership, or even just starting your own line in any of those products or services. So with that, thank you all so much for joining me. Let me know if you guys have any questions that you'd like us to talk about here on the show. And as always, let me know if you'd like to do a free marketing audit. I love this stuff. If you want to come on the show, we can do it live together. So let me know. In the meantime, thank you all so much for joining me today.